everyone, it's Maddie
and V, and today we're going to be doing a read all day. The first book I've decided to go for is Hole in the Middle by Kendra Fortmeyer, which we bought I think before Christmas, so I've had it for a long time, and I was really excited about it when I first got it because I did try a chapter for the sampler I got at the Yelp last year, and so far it's been living up to the greatness of that.
And I've started with A Spoonful of Murder by Robin Stevens, which is the 6th book in this series where Hazel and Daisy go to Hong Kong.
It's about 11:30 now and I'm 150 pages through.
And I have 100 pages left.
We do each have a TBR for the day of books we'd like to get through. I picked 5, although that seems very optimistic with how long it's taken me to get through this so far. And I think you have 4. But things might change, so we'll show you the books we decide to pick up along the way as we go.
So to celebrate our graduation, we went and ordered ourselves a bunch of books, some for Yelp and then some just to complete some trilogies that we hadn't. So let's see which ones these are.
I bet they're just going to be the Amazon ones because they arrived the fastest.
Let's see. Oh, okay, so it's 2 and
I'm guessing Starfish is one of them.
Starfish!
Yeah!
By Akemi Dawn-Bowman. This is a book that B has read and I haven't, but she gave it 5 stars, so I'm sure it'll be joining my TBR very soon.
I was disappointed to learn that her second book is coming out in hardback. Obviously that's great because it means the sales of Starfish were really good, but I'm just like, no, I only collect paperbacks. I'm gonna have to wait to read it. Definitely gonna get that one signed.
Okay, and then the next one is This Adventure Ends by Emma Mills. We absolutely love the look of these books, and the storylines feel definitely right up our street in terms of contemporary. So we picked this one mostly because it was the cheapest and it seemed like a good start as any. A girl called Sloan who gets a new set of friends when she moves from New York to Florida, and apparently they just go on an adventure together.
Yeah, it's like a road trip book, I think.
That seems cute. I just finished all 340 pages of A Spoonful of Murder and found it absolutely delightful. This series could do no wrong for me. I thought it was lovely to see Hazel have a bit of a stronger personality on her home turf and see Daisy take more of a backseat in this mystery. I found that this one was easier to follow than some of the others, but it was still just as exciting as we were in a completely new environment, and the way that this Hong Kong was built was amazing. I definitely think that this is going to be one of my favourites of the series. These are the 3 books that I preliminarily picked out for this read all day. The Accident Season is the shortest one at under 300 pages, and it's one that B chose for me to read last month. Beware That Girl is also, actually no, all of these books are B recommendation books, so we have kind of a mystery, a thriller and a contemporary, but seeing as I already read a mystery, I might be going for Alex approximately. So I just finished Hole in the Middle and I'm going to give it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it, but there was just something that I felt was missing even though I can't put my finger on it, and I guess that's kind of ironic considering the title of the book. I thought it was really well crafted even though there were things that we got closure on that I didn't think we necessarily needed closure on, but then other things that were left far more open. Saying that, I did really enjoy the second half of the book, maybe even more than the first, because I really had to wait for the plot to get going, otherwise I was just enjoying being in this character's world. So I don't think I mentioned, but it's the story of Morgan who has a hole in her abdomen. And there's no cure for it per se, but then she's approached by another doctor who has a patient with a lump on his abdomen and it looks like they fit together. It's mostly about the internet exploding with this phenomenon, calling the 2 of them puzzle pieces, writing fan fiction about them. It's this internet love story about how people think that there are definitely soulmates, but then Howie the boy and Morgan are also really interested in freak shows, so they're sort of looking to track down other freaks that they can connect to as well. It's a mix of a lot of different things, which I guess give it the texture of life that sometimes is missing from contemporary, where it can just seem like a snapshot. This felt like I was really living with the characters, so who knows, maybe I should just give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed the writing too. The humour was similar to that of Geek Girl, but at the same time I felt even though the characters were 17, they could have happily been about 21 for me. The ages seemed a little bit blurred anyway. As school wasn't a huge deal, you didn't really get to see her doing homework even though, you know, she was 17 and should be in school. But I think that's partly because Morgan and her best friend Caro have already moved out of home and they have their own apartment together, which does give it a more adult feel. Here are the other books that I have picked out as choices for today, although part of me really just wants to read This Adventure Ends, but I think I have to save it because I don't really want to go from contemporary to contemporary because I can easily get bored of that. So I think I need a change of pace, and the thing that screams most change of pacey is Matched by Ali Condie, so I might go for that one as it's dystopian. I can probably read it quite quickly, and this one is once again 360 pages, so it's probably going to take me a couple of hours to read. 2 more of our books have turned up in the post, so let's see which ones they are. We've been very lucky with mail today.
Yep, so first of all we have The White Rose by Amy Ewing. This is the second book in the Jewel series. We also ordered the Jewel. We have an ARC copy that we found in a charity shop a few years ago, but we wanted these matching covers. We didn't buy the third one yet because it wasn't quite at the price we like to pay for used and new. Oh, no, it's another good one.
Okay.
It's In Your Light by Anna Lee Granger. This one we got for super cheap on used and new, even though it's a new release too, so that's very exciting. This is a thriller, I do believe. I don't know much about it though. I mostly picked it up from the colour palette, and Lauren James was raving about it on Twitter.
I think it's a missing sister story.
Yeah, her sister Mella disappeared. 4 months later she meets Alice. Alice is from a seemingly peaceful community called the Sisterhood of the Light, but why then is she on the run? Ooh, so it's like a cult story as well, so this should be exciting.
It's around 2:30 and I am halfway through Alex approximately. I think that's around 200 pages. So I obviously have 200 pages left, but because this is quite a long contemporary and I already feel like I've been reading it for ages, I'm going to swap it out and pick up a new book just so that my pace doesn't slow down. I was expecting the two characters to recognise each other's identities by now, so I'm really fascinated to see how long it will be drawn out, because in a similar book to this, Letters to the Lost, it took ages and ages and practically until the very end before they knew each other, and I wonder if one of them is going to figure it out before the other. So far I'm thinking that the characters are really well layered because they've got a lot going on in their backstory, things that they're sharing online and then what they're talking about in person feel very different, so I'm getting to know the characters really quickly. I have read 200 out of the 300 pages of the Accident Season. I'm finding it a really quick read, but it has a really strange and weird atmosphere that I don't normally read, and I think that's why it's going quickly, because it's slightly out of my comfort zone in that way. It's reminding me a little bit of Among Others by Jo Walton, which I read for university last year. But I am liking it more than I expected to, so that's just a good reason to always try and push yourself out of your comfort zone when it comes to books. So on our walk we thought we'd go to some local charity shops to see if they had any good books in store.
It's been ages since we've had any luck, so fingers crossed.
That's one we were looking at in Asda, but
yeah, we didn't want to buy it at £4, so this is only £1.25. We got back from our walk and there was yet another parcel. We've just been so lucky today.
looks like quite a thick one. Could it be reached? That's my guess.
Oh no, it's the Jewel.
Oh great, good. The first and second did come.
Does
Does look
so
big.
happy to have both of those. They can go on the shelf next to each other. Let's see what they look like.
After dinner I finished The Accident Season and I ended up really liking it in the end. It maintained a creepy atmosphere until the very final page, and it had some twists that I definitely didn't see coming, even though I probably should have put it together because there were a lot of clues dropped throughout. I really liked that you couldn't really tell the difference between dreams and reality. There were a lot of supernatural figures that came up and you didn't know if they actually had an impact on what was happening during the Accident Season, because that is when Kara and the rest of her family members are all more vulnerable to being hurt. At the end of the book you get the explanation for why that is, and that ended up being really satisfying. So now I can't wait to read Moira Fowley-Doyle's second book, Spellbook for the Lost and Found, because hopefully it'll have the same vibes, but because it's a lot longer I'll get to know the characters a bit better than I did in this one. I think you could probably call the main character in this bisexual, which was quite nice, but the one thing I wasn't really keen on was the main romance of the story. It didn't sit right with me because it was one of those sister and stepbrother things, but they had grown up together since they were like 10 years old, so it was a little bit more awkward than, say, Estelle Mascom's Just Don't Mention It series. I'm really pleased that Bea recommended this one to me though. Now I'm 260 pages through Alex approximately, which means I have about 150 left to go, and they still don't know who each other are, but it should be pretty clear by now, so I'm a little bit concerned that they're not putting it together. But a romance has definitely formed between Porter and Bailey, and it's really lovely because it's kind of a love-hate romance. Mostly banter and just fake arguing, but that's just really sweet and you know that they care for each other. They bond over movies and having something tragic happen to their parents in the past, and also there's surfing throughout this story, so I'm drawing a lot of comparisons between Emmy and Oliver by Robin Benway and this. I just finished Matched and I'm going to give it 3 stars. It was a bit more romance heavy than I was expecting, but that seems to be the way with dystopians. It's either romance based or revolution based, and this is definitely romance, but I think the way things are moving makes me very excited for the second book and even the third, so maybe it won't be too long before I actually start reading Crossed. But now I'm going to move on to Murder Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens, which is the first book in one of Maddie's absolute favourite series, and if I like this then I have about 6 more to read. Last night after finishing Matched I picked up Murder Most Unladylike.
I read 150 pages. It took me a while to get into it, but I think that's just because there are so many names and so many things to get used to. As Hazel is writing the casebook for the mystery, she jumps back and forward in time, so sometimes I was like struggling to grip onto it, and that's probably because it was late and I was just flailing at that point, but I did finish it this morning and I absolutely loved it. I'm gonna give it 5 stars because it was so fun. I was gasping, I was surprised. When the mystery was all coming together, I just felt so silly that I hadn't been adding it up along with the girls too. It had great misdirection, absolutely amazing characters, and I can't wait to follow them on so many more journeys. I got to the end of this and I was like, I need to read the second one right away because it felt just as rewarding as watching some mystery TV show. Last night I finished reading Alex Approximately by Jenn Bennett, and I think it's a 4.5 star read for me. And the only reason why it's not getting a perfect 5 stars is just because I felt like I could have really done with them knowing each other's identities before 50 pages from the end. Although I was pleasantly surprised that the reveal was not as tragic or dramatic as I thought it was going to be, as they both realised that it didn't really affect them and didn't have to ruin their relationship. I think that Jenn Bennett is just excellent at writing books that have hidden depths. Sure, the concepts of all of her stories kind of feel like just generic romances, but once you actually get into them, they're so much more than just a quirky concept. I feel like I haven't read characters like Bailey and Porter before, and this is definitely up there with some of my favourite love-hate relationships because the way they communicated with each other, I loved every bit of it. Even the parts where they were annoying each other, I was totally on board for. I do feel like the online communication between Alex and Mink could have been a bit stronger throughout the book because it was quite prominent at the very beginning, but as Porter and Bailey got to know each other, it was kind of dropped, and I would have liked to see a bigger parallel between the two. But I was just pleasantly surprised with how much I ended up loving this, especially because when Bea had previously talked to me about the book, she didn't have a glowing review. I think she gave it around 3 stars, but because my expectations had been totally managed for this, I was able to enjoy it a lot more. I also think that the romance was really mature in this. It had a really great pace. They got to know each other, they were friends first, and then they started becoming more intimate, and none of that felt rushed or out of place in the story. I was just completely on board for whatever was going on with them. I thought their dates were really cute, the setting was amazing, seeing them both have active jobs in a surf shop and kind of like a film museum slash cinema was really fascinating. And I think it's made Jenn Bennett kind of like an auto-buy author for me. I know that she has starry eyes that we're yet to buy and read, but maybe I can convince Bea to let me read it first this time because I really enjoyed this one. So Read All Day strikes again with finding favourite books, thank goodness. So this is our wrap up for Read All Day. I read 2 full books and 150 pages of another, which I finished the next day, making my total for the day 875. And I finished 3 full books, taking my total to just over 1,000 pages. This has been our smallest page count achievement for a Read All Day, but it was really great because we enjoyed every single book we read, which is definitely a trend for these Read All Days, so I'm hoping that magic doesn't wear off the next time we do one. It's more important to read what you enjoy slowly than get through a bunch of books you're not excited about quickly anyway. Look forward to more videos in this style in our reading vlogs, which will be starting up very soon. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We post reading and writing videos every week, and you can follow us on social media at Maddie and Bea on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.